Time for another award-winning mailbag edition of NFL Daily by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for joining us. Coming up on today's show, we are going to react to whatever questions you guys send us. It comes from our live shows that we do on Mondays, where people use the hashtag NFL or Super Chat. We answer your questions in real time. So, folks, here's what I need you to do. You may be saying to yourself, I would love to be a part of a mailbag. Well, you're in luck. If you subscribe to the channel, you can join us and be a part of our mailbags. Hit the notification bell. That way you never miss a moment of NFL Daily by Chat Sports. Subscribe now for free today, and you'll be glad you did. First question comes from Dat1 Falcons fan. Well, glad there's at least one of you out there. Enjoy the Waffle House at the stadium while you can, and the Chick-fil-A and all that. That's a lot of food for one guy there at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Nonetheless, Danielle Hunter to Atlanta. I really like Danielle Hunter. What a story to come back from the neck injury he had back in 2020 where he missed all of that season. Last year he was spectacular, and I think he's all that in a bag of chips. And I think you're looking at a guy in Danielle Hunter who still has something to bring to the table and can be a very good football player still for another team. Atlanta is ascending. They are on the up and up. And you got a young quarterback there in Desmond Ridder who's playing with a chip on his shoulder, something to prove. You bring in Bijan Robinson, a lot of excitement around there. Danielle Hunter could bring that team up another notch defensively. I like that idea potentially for Atlanta to go with Danielle Hunter. We'll see what they do. Steven writes, if it came down to the Titans or Patriots, which team do you think DeAndre Hopkins would sign with? So, Steven, I assume you're saying if all things are created equal, if they both offer the same deal. I'll give it to you that way, okay? I would lean towards New England. And here's why I say this, Steven. We don't know who the Tennessee Titans are, okay? That team is very confusing based on what they've done this offseason. At times, they've made it look like, hey, we are still trying to be a playoff caliber team. We're keeping Derrick Henry. We're keeping Ryan Tannehill. And then the next minute, they're not paying certain guys. And some of the moves they've made, it has been very confusing to see who the Titans are. And I think you could have a scenario where the Titans, let's say they sign DeAndre Hopkins. Maybe the season doesn't go so well, and you come to the trade deadline, and all of a sudden they're trading DeAndre Hopkins and Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill, just blowing the whole thing up. If DeAndre Hopkins goes to New England, that team we know for certain is trying to compete and trying to win. I can't say the same about Tennessee. We don't know who they are. I would lean towards New England, but we don't know what D-Hop's thinking there. Chef Raider, what you cooking up, Chef? I'm always down to eat some good burgers or something. Whatever you got for me, Chef. Is there any chance the Raiders trade Davante Adams? He seems unhappy there. I'll put it this way. I wouldn't rule it out. This seemed like a preposterous idea a couple months ago. But when you read into the cryptic messages and the signals that Davante Adams has been sending in regards to how unhappy he is there and the way the organization's done things, you can understand why he would want to move on. I think there is a chance it could happen. You could still get a lot for Davante Adams as far as that goes. I would say it's unlikely, but I wouldn't rule it out. And every team that needs a receiver would be lining up for Davante Adams. It's a big contract, sure, but he's still arguably the best receiver in the NFL at this point. And think about this. One more note I'll add on the Davante Adams front. What does history tell us when it comes to Josh? You go back to what Josh did in Denver. He chased off Jay Cutler and Brandon Marshall. Now he comes to Las Vegas, and Derek Carr is gone, although I don't really blame him for moving on from Derek Carr. I understand that. But now Josh Jacobs might be gone. Davante Adams isn't happy. Darren Waller you chased out of town. Some things are par for the course, so we'll see. Will the Raiders trade Davante Adams? Tell me what you think in the comment section. Y for yes, in for no. Give me your input. What is ultimately going to go down? Tell me what you think. Y for yes, in for no. Will the Raiders trade Davante Adams or not? NFL Fan Zone says, do you think if Barkley can't sign, Giants trade him for round one, then send Cook with the opening in cap and trade for Davante Adams with round one and also receive a pick? Okay, let me make this very clear, okay? No one is giving up first-round picks for running backs, period. Plain and simple. No one is giving up first-round picks for veteran running backs. And if they are very, very stupid. Let's begin there. Let's get that out of the way first, okay? Secondly, is there a world where Dalvin Cook ends up in New York? Yeah, possibly. If Saquon Barkley, if they can't come to terms with a deal, you would have to think that Dalvin Cook is going to be cheaper than Saquon Barkley is. Now back on the Davante Adams end of things. I very well think that the Giants, they're kind of weak at receiver, right? They're good but not great. Them, among other teams, are going to be picking up that phone and say, yeah, how much? How much is it? So the Giants very well possibly could make that move. We'll see what they do. NFL rookie jerseys are on sale now, whether you want to rep Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, maybe it's C.J. Stroud. Good news for you. We have all these jerseys on sale now in one place. Chatsports.com/NFL jersey. You can represent your favorite team and their new star young player and wear these jerseys. I got to tell you, a lot of these look really good. You can see there some of the ones that we're showing you: Jordan Addison, Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, just to name a few. All of these, whatever your favorite team is, whoever they picked, we have their jerseys for you. I mean, Texans fans, you don't want to be wearing that Deshaun Watson jersey anymore. You need a quarterback jersey to wear. C.J. Stroud, we got it for you. Whatever you want to wear, we have them now on sale. And Father's Day coming up just around the corner. Still looking for a gift for Dad? I got you one. Get Dad one of these jerseys, one of these rookies. Chatsports.com/NFL jersey. Paul writes, your thoughts on Dalvin Cook to Miami? Because when you say Miami, this is for Chad Jones. You're talking Super Bowl. I can't say that too loud, though. Paul, Dalvin Cook and the Dolphins just make sense. It seems like on paper that is a match that makes sense between the two. Will it happen? We'll see. But what I would say is that those two parties involved, Dalvin Cook, what he's looking for to be a number one running back, to be a contending team and get paid, not to mention he's from Miami, that all adds up. And the Dolphins have the cap space to do it. That makes a lot of sense. We'll see if they do it. Paul, thanks for the $2 super chat. For your Dolphins, best of luck. Let's see if they can get Dalvin Cook. I think all signs point to that it's heading that direction. Christopher writes in, who do you think is the best player in free agency? I'm still shocked he's sitting out there. Yannick Ngakoue is still available at this point. Yannick is still out there, and we've been kind of just waiting here. I mean, Yannick was one of the best players when free agency began and is still available at this point. Chicago seems like they would be the favorites, but, I mean, they could have had him a long time ago. I don't know what the holdup is. Yannick Ngakoue is that guy. He's the best player in free agency at this point, but Dalvin Cook obviously is now one of those guys as well. Those would be your two. We'll see. Next question from Red Hog, better than Commies. I like that, although the Commies' names have been fun. Will Chase Young get traded and to where? I lean towards no. We've heard that the Commies, we'll call them that, for this case, since you brought it up. I mean, I've heard Commie fans get mad at me for saying Commies, but since you brought it up, you're giving me permission to call them the Commies in this case. The Commies here, I don't think are going to move on from Chase Young. I think they're taking phone calls. You're not going to get the return on investment from the second-round pick you gave up to get him. You might as well see if he can be the player that you drafted him to be, if he can stay healthy and play at that high of a level. With that said, I think they're going to take calls. They're going to listen, but I would still be surprised if ultimately they move on from him or not. Watch out for Chicago. Watch out for Seattle, Pittsburgh, just to name a few of some of these potential teams that could be interested in Chase Young. Also, Detroit up there is a possibility as well. What team should trade for Chase Young? What do you think? Tell us in the comments section what a team makes sense to see Chase Young end up at. Give me one team that comes to mind that you think should trade for Chase Young. A couple more questions, then we'll wrap up here. Carter writes in, could Miami trade for Isaiah Simmons? If not, who could they trade for that's not a running back? We continue here on Dolphins Today. Isaiah Simmons, I like Isaiah Simmons a lot. He came out of Olathe, Kansas, before he went to Clemson, and then ended up being, what was it, like a top 10 pick or so when he went to the Arizona Cardinals. And I like Isaiah Simmons. I think that he's very athletic. He can do a lot of different things, but kind of like what we talked about the last few months with DeAndre Hopkins, is that where the Cardinals are headed, going down, it's counterintuitive to keep good players and pay good players like Isaiah Simmons when you're trying to get towards the bottom so you can, tank and capitalize on that draft capital and all that. With that said, Isaiah Simmons, could Miami trade for him? Potentially. Problem is that, they've been using a lot of those draft picks. What are their assets that they can give up? And then the cap space, too, because a guy like Isaiah Simmons, think about this, not only would you be bringing him in and giving up draft capital, whatever you may have, but also a guy like that you're going to have to basically give a new deal right away. Do you want to pay that and give up the draft capital? I don't know. Who could they trade for that's not a running back? That's a good question. Chase Young seems a little bit out of the question for them. Danielle Hunter might be able to work potentially. That might be a guy they don't have to give up too much on. Watch out, because when you say Miami, you're talking playoff. Juan says, our last question, do you think the Raiders can get Danielle Hunter? Everybody wants Danielle Hunter. Yeah, I think the Raiders could be in position to compete for him. The Raiders need a lot of help on their defense. Their defense was cheeks for most of last year and gave up a lot of big plays. Danielle Hunter would be a nice improvement for that group and could get some positive vibes going for what's been, I would say, an offseason where there hasn't been a whole lot of momentum for that team. That could end that offseason on a high note than bringing a guy like Danielle Hunter. Hit me up on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Tyler Jones Live. You can follow me there. I'll see you next time right here on NFL Daily.